Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Build a Beast. We are sharing an elite performance coaching adventure with you guys over the weeks. Thanks to our resident expert, we've got backstage with us that we'll be bringing on in a moment. But if you're new here, we've been leveling up into 8 specific pillars, essentially mastering what our coach calls the energy equation, maximizing our day-to-day energy and our input and output, essentially. So welcome to everybody here. Drop a quick little comment. Let us know you're in the mix. Good to see you, Thomas. Good to see you, Usama. Today we're going to be talking about sleep habits and optimizing everything there. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Build a Beast. Let's go ahead and just bring him in right now. Our star of this season, Mr. Justin Ruffling Chauffeur.
Every time you say star of the show, I'm thinking you're going to introduce yourself. I love
I'm the guinea pig of the show, sharing this adventure. So thanks to everybody that's hanging here with us and been a part of this, for small portions or a few that have been rocking and rolling the entire time. We appreciate you, and Justin, we appreciate you sharing your time, your knowledge, your expertise, and your ability to simplify these limitlessly complex subjects down to simple rules, simple guidelines to stay within is just proven invaluable, at least in my life, and I'm sure from the people that have been joining us as well. So welcome and thank you. What do we got on store today?
Well, today we're diving into sleep, and honest to God, of the 8 areas, sleep is one of the biggest ones that 90% of us have. I mean, Greg, I know you're saying right there, sleep's one of my biggest challenges as well. And so many people in the space in which we're in on this day-to-day basis have really struggled with sleep. It's one of these things that we kind of take for granted. It's just something that naturally happens. It's something we engage in on a daily basis. It's something that we all have a bed, we all have a bedroom, we all have pillows, we all go about our day, but yet all of a sudden we haven't figured out how to solve that sleep equation yet within that bigger energy equation, because we have not prioritized it. We haven't dug deep into some of this science stuff. And today we're really going to transform this, because so many times, how many times do we lay down in bed and our brain starts going? And it just starts driving and going and going and going. And we lay there an hour later and we're in the same space in which we were before. And now the anxiety starts to build. And now the frustration starts to build. And then we just find ourselves going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. And so before we get into like some deep, real like hard work of like what we're looking at from some science aspect, I want to give you the information and the understanding as to why quality of sleep is so much more important than the quantity of sleep. And forever we've said, hey, you need 6 hours of sleep, you need 7 hours of sleep, you need 8 hours of sleep, you need 9 hours of sleep. That's all a bunch of BS. Anybody who's ever said you need a certain number has never set foot in your shoes and has really never looked at the true science and reason behind sleep and what is truly optimized and why you cannot make up for bad sleep. It's the same reason why you can't make up for a bad diet, because you can never chase it. It's always going to outperform you. So with that, let's pop over to the whiteboard here, and I'm going to get some exciting drawing in. I'll bring my computer up so you guys have a front row seat to the show. And tell me if you guys can see this okay. How's that look, Travis?
The framing is good. The internet bandwidth, it might be lowering, or it might just be the preview I'm watching because I'm in streamer mode, but it looks good. I'm seeing all of the numbers and percentages pretty clearly, and your beautiful mug along the side. So I think we're all good.
All right. So the only thing that could use an upgrade then is my face. But so we're taking a look here. So what I want you guys to understand is this is person one, okay? Number one, and this is person two. Both of these people are going to be getting their 8 hours of sleep in. Okay. And I know we've talked about this before, but there's 4 stages of sleep. There's what we call light sleep, slow wave sleep, which is our physically restorative sleep. So where our muscles start to get reprieve. REM sleep, which is where our brain waves start to change and it gives us that mental clarity, that mental freedom. And then we have a little wake cycle. And to go through this cycle, it takes 90 minutes. Okay. 90 minutes for each and every single person. And we'll get into why this is important in a second, because if any of you have ever been woken up in the middle of a sleep cycle, so the middle of a 90-minute cycle, you know what it's like. You get woken up in the middle of a REM cycle and you feel like a ball's just been dropped on your face. And you wake up groggy. You'd have no idea what's going on. You don't know what day it is. You don't know what time it is. You don't know if you're waking up on the right or wrong side of the bed. It's very confusing. And so we're going to get into why quality truly matters and how you create this timing for yourself. So we know that there's 4 stages of sleep. What we typically see, okay, is that 70% of an individual's sleep is spent in that light stage, okay? So if we take a look, that is about 5.6 hours every single night if you're getting an 8-hour sleep. Then they have about 10% in slow wave, REM, and wake cycle. So that means there's an equal 48 minutes in each one of those. Now, understanding that slow wave sleep and REM sleep are physically and mentally restorative, I think we can both agree that that is going to be the quality sleep area where we want to live, right? And so if we were to take a look at the quality of sleep you're getting on any given night, it's about an hour and 30 minutes, okay? About an hour and 30 minutes, person one, who's getting this type of breakdown. Now, if we were to say, ideally, after we train you, after we teach you these strategies that we're going to get into here in a moment, the ones that Travis has been really engaging on over the last little bit, we ideally want you to be at about no more than 50% of your sleep in light sleep. So that means about 4 hours in light sleep. That slow wave and REM sleep, we want it to be between 20 and 25%. So that's 1.6 to 2 hours in each space. And our wake cycle, we actually want to be less than 5, which is 24 minutes. So if we were to add up the 2 quality amounts of sleep now, that's 3 to 4 hours. 3 to 4 hours versus an hour and 30 minutes. That it means that this person, person 2, is getting on average 1.5 to 2.5. So let's say on average 2 hours of quality sleep more than person 1. That means that that is approximately 14 hours a week or more. That means it's 52 hours a month or more. Means it's 750 plus hours or more a week. And that math is good if I was to change this to 6 or if I was to change this to 4. So it doesn't matter the total hours that you get, but the quality of the sleep that you're getting is most important. The quality of the sleep is what creates longevity. The quality of the sleep is what creates impact. The quality of the sleep is what makes you feel better genetically, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, helps everything work and function at a greater level, because everything that sleep impacts, your brain, your heart, your lungs, are all impacted in keeping you alive and all keep impacted on moving you forward. So quality over quantity. All right. Now, let me erase this and grab that eraser over here. Lost it on the way over. Let's erase this. And we're going to go into a little example of how do we pick up and how do we optimize this quality of sleep. Well, we know that we sleep in 90-minute cycles. Okay. We have those 4 stages, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have our light. We have our slow wave. We have our REM. And we have our wake. To do this, to go through this, it takes 90 minutes. What an adult needs on a day-to-day basis is they need 35 cycles per week of quality sleep. Okay? So they need to go through 35 90-minute cycles a week. That means you need 5 cycles per night. That means that we're functioning optimally. If we can be really doing a great job if we're getting somewhere between 7 and 8 hours a night. If we can get somewhere in between here, we're doing really, really well. Now, how do we plan this? How do we plan to succeed? Because if we don't plan, all we're doing is planning to fail. Okay?
Yep.
So if we come over here and we take a look and we know we need this somewhere in this 7 to 8 hours, how do we optimize this? And maybe let me turn a light on here, guys. So I see I'm a little bit dark. There, I think that's better. Did I come to light a little bit?
Yeah, it's it's readable on my end. You guys in the stream, let us know if how it's looking.
Perfect. So by taking a look at this, we always work backwards. So what time do you need to wake up in the morning? And the key here is consistency. Because if we can get consistent with when we go to bed and when we wake up, now our melatonin cortisol cycle, melatonin being optimized at night, cortisol being optimized in the morning, are going to be balanced. And we're going to have energy in the morning and fatigued at night, instead of the inverse, which we call tired and wired. So we're tired when we wake up and wired when we go to bed. I've seen a couple people saying here that their mind keeps going at night. That's that tired and wired cycle. We need to inverse that. We have a melatonin and cortisol imbalance. So what we start to do is we say, okay, if I need to wake up at 6 a.m., that's just when I need to wake up. And I need to wake up energized. I need to wake up ready to go. We now count backwards. So we're like, okay, what's 7 to 7.5 hours back from that so I can know I'm getting 5 cycles of sleep every night? Well, we know that 6 hours takes us to midnight. We know 7 hours takes us to 11. We need to be sleeping by 10:30 p.m. Okay? That is what if everything works out perfectly, in a perfect world, if this can be where we need to be, boom, then that's where we live, and this becomes our optimal setting. Well, now guess what? You're watching Netflix and you're like, one more, honey, one more. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But now you don't get to bed until 10:30, so there's no way you're sleeping at 10:30, but now it's closer to 11. So now you have a choice. Okay, you have a choice, because let's go for quality. Let's remember this, quality. You want to wake up at 6 a.m. as your body's naturally waking up out of this cycle. So that's probably going to be around minute, call it 81 to 90. Okay? How are we going to wake up? If we do this and we shift 30 minutes, we're going to be waking up at 6 a.m. in the middle of a slow wave or REM cycle, and we're going to wake up fatigued. We're going to wake up groggy. We're going to wake up just like somebody just blew us up. Okay? So instead, when we look at this, we're like, okay, we're going to be at sleep at 11 p.m. now. We have a choice. We can shift this and we can get up at 6:30 a.m. Some people have this option. Some people don't. The other thing you can now do is go, okay, well, given that, I need to make sure that I'm coming out of my cycle properly. So I'm actually going to stay up until 11:30 and prepare myself so that I'm going through this full cycle again. So 90 minutes plus 90 minutes plus 90 minutes plus 90 minutes gets me to only 4 cycles on this night. But I know that my 4 cycles are going to be of quality and not of quantity. And so we shift and we simply say, yeah, I'm going to stay up for 30 more minutes. Maybe I'm going to meditate. Maybe I'm going to read. Maybe I'm going to do something that's going to get me into a deeper stage of sleep, slow wave or REM in my first cycle. But I'm waking up at the appropriate time and out of it appropriately. Does that make sense? So Indeed. What we start to do is we're reverse engineering our sleep practices. Okay. So now I'll erase some of this, work back into it. We now know that our bedtime is 10:30 p.m. Okay. That's optimal for us. We now have a system in which we're going to make sure that we get to bed and have a great night's sleep. And it's called the 3-2-1-0 rule. 3 hours before bed, 2 hours before bed, 1 hour before bed. And then 0 at the bottom. So 3 hours before bed, no more major meals. Okay, no more major meals. So no more steak, no more chicken, no more anything. Like, get rid of the major meals. If you're gonna have a protein shake, great. You can have a piece of fruit, great. You're gonna have some popcorn, great. But no more major meals 3 hours before bed. So that means 7:30, nothing else. Because what does that do? Our body needs to break down food. It keeps us thinking. It keeps our sympathetic, engaged nervous system working, which is stress that's unnecessarily placed on our body. Now, 2 hours before bed, this is 8:30, okay? No more work, okay? So no more emails, no more phone calls, no more meetings, no more work-related items whatsoever. Allow the brain to shut down, dissociate, break off from it, okay?
Yep.
No more checking LinkedIn. I see that right there.
Yeah, she
Eliminate it.
said that right
Eliminate it.
before. Right
Unnecessary.
before.
Unnecessary. Because it's going to get you thinking. It's going to go, oh, I need to send some more messages. I need to send some more messages. It's another dopamine hit, which we want to eliminate. We want to get away from. And then at 9:30, 1 hour before bed, no more blue light. Okay? And blue light comes from any type of screen. It comes from your TV. It comes from your computer. It comes from your iPhone. It comes from your Apple. It comes from your tablet. It comes from your Kindle. It comes from anything that has a screen. And so if we can eliminate the blue light that is being projected towards us, now all of a sudden what happens is it doesn't suppress the melatonin. So there was a study done at NYU, and when blue light was emitted, it actually suppressed melatonin secretion, the number one indicator of sleepability, number one proponent of feeling fatigued, feeling tired, ready to sleep, shutting down the brain, by 30 minutes. Okay? So if all of a sudden we're using blue light at 8:30 and 9:30 and 10:30, and we want to now go to bed at 11 o'clock, we have to calculate when did the sun go down and how many hours were we exposed to blue light and cut that in half. So if we were exposed to 4 hours of blue light after the sun went down, melatonin secretion is going to be delayed by 2 hours. So that means we're not getting our first melatonin hit until 12:30 p.m. So that's why we have a hard time shutting down. That's why we have a hard time going to sleep. That's why we have a hard time taking our mind off of things and relaxing. Because all of a sudden, our mind is working. Our mind is regulating. It thinks that it's daytime because it's been exposed to the blue light. Blue light is the highest spectrum of light that reminds us of daytime. And so if ever we want to, again, so no TV hours before sleep. So no TV, theoretically, 1 hour before you go to bed. That's it. 1 hour before bed, unless we want to do a little biohack and throw our blue light blockers on. And if our blue light blockers are being thrown on, I'll pull out my trusty ones. You're going to see my eye color change because they're yellow. Okay, so they're yellow screen, yellow lensed. And why am I using these? Simply because it's blocking 75 to 85% of blue light emission. So I can still watch a show with whoever I want, but it's eliminating the blue light in which I'm exposed to, putting me in a better space. So what happens here is at this 9:30 point, I have so many of my clients all the time say, well, shit, Justin, what am I supposed to do in this last hour before bed? And this is where we give you a parasympathetic buffet. And what
Yes, I love that.
Parasympathetic buffet. So that could be reading. That could be meditation. That could be journaling. That could be stretching. That could be a shower. That could be a bath. I don't know if you have a sauna at your house, but that could be a sauna. That could be a walk. That could be, I don't know, a conversation, heaven forbid, with your significant other. It could be playing with your dog. That could be tucking your kids in. It could be whatever you want it to be, but it's relaxing. It's truly engaging in a unique way that's not bringing any level of awareness to anything. Okay? It's bringing you back to that parasympathetic state, that rest and digest state. And I always suggest people have a bunch of options. I've got a lot of people that say, yeah, you know what? I don't like meditation. Great. Read. I don't like reading. Great. Journal. I don't like writing. Great. Stretch. I don't like that. Listen to soft music. Oh, I could do that. Mentally visualize. Do progressive relaxation. Do literally, it's the bigger the buffet, the better, because your mood's going to change. And so if you're motivated to do something here when 9:30 sets in, well, now you've got a routine. You've got a ritual that starts to push you in a better state so that you can fall asleep at this 10:30 time and wake up in an energetic state because you've optimized the sleep in which you've utilized. I mean, the Calm app is great. There's again, it pigeonholes you a little bit. People look for tools, and I think this is one of my biggest pet peeves. I hope not to go on a tangent here, but
let it rip.
But people use tools as like the end all be all. So they'll be like, is the Calm app going to help me go to sleep? No, it's not. The Calm app is not going to help you go to sleep. But if we use the tool of meditation in the appropriate way, in a system that works, that tool, spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. But otherwise, it's just a tool that's going to disappoint you at the end of the day. Because all of a sudden, it's left you disappointed because your parasympathetic system is still operating. Your brain waves are still operating. Your melatonin secretion still isn't happening. All of these other processes that needed to happen before the tool was implemented was left empty. It's like all of a sudden you show up with a blueprint to build a house and, hey, I've got all the tools that I need, but damn, I forgot the lumber. What are we going to do? The house imaginary could look really good. Imaginary, we could have a great sleep too, but unfortunately, that's not what we're looking for. We want to make sure that we have the options. We want to make sure that we have the real high quality work and that we're allowed to have the choices to go to sleep because, again, variety, choice is the spice of life, baby. And that's what's going to allow us to really stay on it because motivation is going to leave us. But ultimately doing this is there. I love that you brought up melatonin pills. The worst thing we can do, supplementing melatonin is the worst thing that we can do. And with all my clients, something that we do right off the bat is we do a DNA test. And Travis did one, and we're going to dive in deep in that in, I think, 3-4 weeks, Travis.
Nice.
But the reason we do a DNA test is because if you supplement with melatonin and you start taking melatonin, what we start finding is that your body produces less of it. The receptor sites actually get filled with adenosine. And adenosine is your hormone that says whether you're tired or not. And so if you can eliminate the melatonin, because it's going to ultimately decrease the overall secretion naturally, what you're probably deficient in is the creation of melatonin. So it's probably vitamin D. It's probably you're probably low in magnesium. You're probably low in potassium, those types of things. But we could see that through a DNA test. We could see that through a blood test. We can see that through other things that we work with you on. Because all of a sudden, let's go backwards. So melatonin's produced here. Ultimately, if we need this, we're going to start back here at vitamin D, which is upregulated by folate, which is now created by tryptophan. And that produces melatonin. So it's a cycle, it's a system, okay, that produces melatonin. So if that's what's happening and we're shy on this, we're not falling asleep, it goes back to two things. One, either we're not producing it, or two, we're shunting it or blunting it or reducing the production because of the habits we're engaged in. So just throwing back a pill, just throwing back a spray isn't going to look after the root problem. It's just going to knock us out. And I guarantee you, if we measured the quality of sleep you're getting, you're not getting quality of sleep. You're not going through the full cycles because you're just basically one step beyond playing dead. That's about as best as a description as I can give. So if we get back here, the things that we need to look at supplementing are vitamin D, magnesium, and potassium. Magnesium is used for over 300 systems in the body. Number one is reducing stress on the body. And so 95% of people are deficient in magnesium. And if we utilize, it's called an EASE spray, EASE, right on the forearms, right on the chest, and right on the back of the neck, 3 or 4 times a day, I guarantee you're going to notice an increase in melatonin production just simply by adding magnesium and sprayable magnesium to your diet, okay, or to your supplementation routine, and just a sprayable, okay? So that's the big thing that I want to talk to you guys about in this whole section, this whole system of sleep and how you use it. We work backwards. We find out when we want to wake up. We count back 7.5 hours to when we need to go to sleep. We know that because that's going to give us our 5 full cycles. That will give us our 35 cycles on minimum a week. When we take a look at that and we bounce backwards, we now have our 3-2-1 rule. 10 p.m. we're going to sleep. 3-2-1. What times are we shutting off for our meals? Well, 7:30. No more work at 8:30. No more blue light at 9:30. That ignites our parasympathetic buffet. And now that's where we start eating, right in this parasympathetic buffet area. And that's going to optimize us to get a good quality night's sleep, not quantity.
Boom.
So with that, I know that's a big
that was loaded. But everybody here has been loving it.
So if we come over here now and we take a look at Travis's information, and this is where it becomes very practical, very applicable, is we've been tracking Travis for well over a month now. And if we take a look back at his sleep, so you look here, he's always had a high quality of sleep. This number right here, you see how it's about, call it 48%. This is your light sleep, okay? His REM sleep is about, call it 30%. His REM sleep is about 10 to 15. So overall, really, really great in terms of his sleep cycles and where he's at. I can even show the awake time. So he's just under 50% total with slow wave and REM. Well, if we all of a sudden go out 2 weeks, notice how this circle shifts, how he now has literally almost split it 50-50, and his sleep has been optimized even greater just by working. We worked on one thing. Travis, what was the one thing I told you I wanted you to do over the last 3 weeks?
Consistency.
Exactly.
Is the only factor.
The only factor. And if I look at consistency here, sleep consistency, I'm going to go over the month. Look at what Travis's trend was. Everything upwards, 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 upwards. And now he's upwards of that 92, 93 versus when he started, had days as low as 62, 79, 72, 70, 76, 80, 90, 93, 92, 91. And that's off of a 10 day to 2 week trend. So just by improving the consistency, we improved the quality of the sleep because the hormone release was also on point. Now, if we take a look into what it did to his HRV and his recovery, look again, upward trend in HRV. Had a down day here. Again, my guess is you probably went out and enjoyed the alcohol.
Nailed it. That was our feel good Friday. Was every once in a while those get a little spicy. We enjoy some cocktails, but I see it every time the next morning.
But look at this. The next morning, look, the next day, boom, Boom, right back to 76, because you go back to your habits, Travis. It's the consistency. I don't need it to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. I want you to go do that, to go and have a little fun. Life's no fun if you're just sitting at home all day. To go and have a fun Friday with friends, that's great. But knowing that it's not going to kill you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks down the road and have detriment to your overall effects and the health and wellness that you're generating. So that's where it becomes this truly enhancement. And we talk about optimization. That's what we're looking at here, is making sure that we have a plan, we have a system, and we can implement something that is data driven to make sure that we're moving in that right direction, that we have something to lean on, something to go back to. Because guys, time is not our greatest commodity. It's energy. Energy is our greatest commodity. Energy is the number one indicator of high performance. It's the number one indicator of success. It's the number one similarity that anybody who's ever done anything great has always come back to say, you know what? I have great energy. I feel great. We all know what it's like. I mean, what's the first thing you say when you start to get a cold, when you start to get run down, when you start to have the flu, whatever it may be? My energy level's terrible. My energy level's gone. You wake up in the morning, oh my God, my energy, I don't have any. And it goes to affect everything else. And so of those 8 categories that we talk about, it's why we simply come back to the energy equation and optimizing sleep, optimizing stress, optimizing these things, because that's what's truly going to create that change. And that's what we do for our clients. That's what we do for Elise and I over the last year and a half. We've helped over 2,000 different people one-on-one, as well as through companies. And that's the biggest thing. So, and again, I know a lot of people are asking, Travis, maybe you can put that code in there, join.whoop.com/own it, and we'll actually gift everybody a Whoop band. So we'll take all give you the entire, yep, there you go. We'll take all the cost off that.
Yeah, that's what I ended up rolling with, Maria. There's a ton of them, but this was super easy, sleek. I didn't want anything that was like, I don't know, a chunky or fashionable. I guess I just wanted something simple. But there's even more fashionable options.
I mean, the reason I like the Whoop band too is I mean, it all goes back to, guys. It all goes back to HRV. It all goes back to what we're looking at. It all goes back to that one number, that one metric. It doesn't need to be complicated. And that's what we help people guide through. So I know Maria and Jennifer, you guys are both saying that this is resonating. You're needing help with this stuff. Go to masterinSixminutes.com. You can get a whole bunch of more information, like a bunch of different guidance there. But reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, because I can give you some more real quick takeaways, quick tips that is really going to be able to, again, just create work for you and guidance that is actually actionable, that will really truly work. Because again, and I'll go on a tangent here, but so many people, when they talk about sleep, it's what I can't remember who was talking about it. Maybe it was Maria or Bonnie, but it's, I'm going to take melatonin. I'm going to get a new mattress. I'm going to invest $5,000 in blackout shades. I'll tell a little story here. We were doing some work for a company, and we were talking with our executive team, and we kind of did the onboarding process, and they started saying, this one guy goes, I just spent $5,000 on my room, but my sleep hasn't improved. I got one of those new fancy mattresses. I got a white noise machine. I got blackout shades, and all of a sudden we're talking, and he's like, but my sleep has not improved whatsoever. Well, those tools are great. The tools are awesome. The people who have invested millions of dollars, and the industry itself, the performance industry, the tools industry is really upwards of like $5 trillion every single year in the United States. And when we sit here and look at this, it ends up being a tool that doesn't hit the root cause. It just takes care of the symptom. And when all of a sudden we look at this and we know that there's something bigger there, we can now work on this on a greater level. And that's what I spent my entire PhD work looking at, was how do we eliminate the root cause of what's going on? Because everybody just wants to hinder on the symptom. We've got so many tools out there that are just, here's the symptom, here's the symptom, here's the symptom. And at the end of the day, it's how we change it. It's how we create the long-term sustainable change. And it comes from those habits. It comes from knowing what sleep cycles we're operating in. It comes from knowing this 3-2-1-0 rule. Super easy to be able to add and just be able to implement it sometime. Again, Bonnie, chamomile tea, great. Add that to the parasympathetic buffet. That works for you. Awesome. It's perfect. We have hot tea with some type of maybe meditative practice or breathing practice, or just sit and meditate or think or read. It's awesome. And all of a sudden, doing that at that last hour before bed, it's going to put you in a great state to sleep, because it starts changing our brain waves from beta to theta to alpha to delta. And when we get into those deeper brainwave states, that's what allows us to perform at a greater level. That's what allows us to truly operate at a higher level and get the deeper quality sleep that matters. Because the first thing I showed you, 2 people sleeping 4 hours a night, 6 hours a night, 8 hours a night, 2 hours a night, I don't care how long you sleep for, the higher quality person will never get reached, will never, ever be able to make it up, ever. Because you've got somebody who's sleeping equivalent 8 hours each, but person 2 was getting 750 plus quality hours more a week. Think about how you make that up. There's no way you make that up. Not a chance. And who ends up winning at the end of the day? Who ends up performing better at the end of the day? Who ends up getting the job at the end of the day? Who ends up making the sale at the end of the day? Who ends up getting the relationship at the end of the day? It's the person who has a higher energy level. It's the person who resonates more. It's the person who can literally have people who want to come here. Because if you're in any sales job, and to be honest with you, we're all in sales. Whether you have a product, whether you're selling a service, whether you're selling yourself, whether you're a CEO, a leader, an entrepreneur of a team, whether you're a leader of a family, you have to get them to buy into something. You have to get people to buy into you. So every single one of us is a salesperson. And people don't buy products. They don't buy things. They buy the people behind them. And that when you can relate to somebody through the energy in which they bring and the quality in which they are, it all starts with how do you show up from the inner and outer energy? How do you solve that energy equation? And it starts with the quality sleep that you're getting.
Amen. I had to mute there for the pup action for a sec, but you were on a roll anyways. So, yeah, if there's any last minute questions you guys want to drop here in the chat, I'm seeing if there was anything that snuck in here. Thomas mentioning, not surprisingly, their doctor would suggest for them to take melatonin. So, are there specific situations that or asterisks that need to be attached to that, or is that just a another unresolvable debate in health?
No, so I mean, so here's the thing, and I mean, doctors are awesome, but how do I say this respectfully? What do you call a doctor, or what do you? I just gave the answer away. What do you call a medical student that finishes with a D average?
A
doctor. And so they're probably specializing in something. So when's the last time that you've gone to an actual sleep doctor versus like maybe a GP or a knee specialist or someone? They're always going to prescribe something. When's the last time you've gone to the doctor and you haven't had something that's caused an issue to you? And, oh, here, take this. Here, take Advil, take aspirin, take this, take that. And doctors aren't sleep specialists. They haven't put their time there. Um, they haven't looked at the root cause of what's going on with you to a greater degree. So melatonin, an easy fix a lot of times. CBD, an easy fix. These are all the buzzwords, the fancy things that are like people are pushing. But if we go back and we look at it and we take a look at the true science of what's going on, we can enhance it by looking at the quality of what's happening. And that's the key of what we're truly looking at, to be able to, again, optimize us on a much greater level, so that we're not chasing things over and over and over again. And we can do it a natural way. I mean, forget the pills and let's go straight for routine and parasympathetic buffets. Like, let's live there. And we're going to wake up more refreshed because the quality of sleep we're going to be getting is better. And hey, is it going to be a journey? Are we going to have to work at it and experiment a little bit and play with things? Possibly, sure. But that's where you can rely on somebody like myself or Elise or anybody else within our team that we work with, to make sure that at the end of the day, we can truly operate at a higher level, because that's going to be able to push you to be better and get the routines that are sustainable. Because all of a sudden, hey, melatonin's great until a week later it stops working, or you wake up a week later and you're like, man, like, why do I not feel better? Well, maybe you've slept for 8 hours, but let's check the quality of that 8 hours. And that's where, again, we just run into these issues overall of being able to make sure that the quality is there versus what the quantity is.
Brilliant. No, that's perfect. And I see some people are getting plugged into that setup to start this journey of everything's going to be different for every single individual.
And Travis, that's what we found with you too, is like, there's certain things that worked for you, certain things that didn't. You came to me and were like, Justin, you know what? This just doesn't work for me. Awesome. That's great. I love that we found what doesn't work for you, because that gives us a better idea of what might. And now that we can start to cross the exit or cross the T's, dot the I's, and figure out what's working in a better state, we can now make better suggestions. We can make better practices that is really playing Travis's game and nobody else's.
Nope, that's what's worked for me, having the flexibility. I just kind of always keep thinking of them as like those bumper lanes at the bowling alley. You're not like literally controlling the ball, saying this or that, but there's lanes to know like you can get to the same destination without straying too far off track if you just keep a few things on track. So
it's a great analogy. I mean, when you give yourself a guideline, when you give yourself a board, or when you give yourself something to strive for, a system. That's why the 3-2-1 is so big. Is rigidity. Honestly, rigidity kills dreams, because you can't move throughout it, and you feel like a failure. You feel like you've let something down. You feel like it's not going to work as well.
Sure.
But when you have that 3-2-1 rule of, hey, this is what we're going to do. We have the big buffet to choose from and be able to apply when's necessary. Because here's the other thing. I don't have kids. You don't have kids. A lot of our clients, a lot of our teams have kids. And there's things that come up. So all of a sudden, if your kid wakes up at midnight or 2 or isn't going to bed at night, like, how are you going to say, oh, no, sorry, it's bedtime. I have to get my quality sleep here. No, you just shift. We showed you how. If all of a sudden it's not Netflix that kept you up, but it's your kid, no problem. I'm just going to stay up an extra 30 minutes so that I can make sure that this works, or I'm going to adjust this to this, or I'm going to change my what I'm going to do for my parasympathetic stimulation tonight, because maybe my reading is reading to my child instead of going and meditating. Or maybe my parasympathetic stimulation is, and again, sorry, another quick story, but another one of our clients had this exact thing happen. His daughters would go to bed at 9 p.m. and he gets up at 4 a.m. And so he wanted to be sleeping by 9:30. Well, when he tucks his daughters in, he's trying to tie that all into his work. So the book that he reads to his daughters is exactly what he ends up doing for is the book that he reads there. And all of a sudden, when we look at our kids, they wake up when they need to, they go to bed when they need to. But what's caused us to change is the fact that we have artificial light, the fact we have computers, the fact we have TVs, the fact that we have choice to stay up. And so that's the biggest thing. When's the last time that your kids fought to keep their eyes open to watch TV? They fall asleep. They start a movie, they go to sleep. And so that is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that we can truly do to make sure that we keep the consistency and do this. And Bonnie, you're exactly right. The more that we can do this with our couples, the better. People that come through our program and we often work with their spouses together. And one of the key rules, we actually have 5 points of connection that we work with all our couples on. The first is when they wake up together in the morning, there's some type of touch. So a touch, soft touch on the shoulder, a kiss, something that, again, energetically creates separation. The second piece of touch is like goodbye, like a kiss goodbye. Then number 3 is a 10-second hug when the connection is remade. So whether that's at the end of the day, whether that's at lunch, whether that's in between Zoom calls, whatever it might be. Number 4 is that there is again, some type of high five, some type of 10-second kiss, another type of connection. And then number 5 is that they go to bed with each other every single night. And that's a big thing that we can do, because we've got some clients that their husband is a night owl, and the other one is a early morning person. And so all that happens is now we've just shifted their circadian rhythms a little bit together in these habits, so that they're both in bed together. They've gone to bed together. They're optimizing them together, but they're living true to what they need. Again, data-driven energy.
Love it. Love it. As the data nerd, it's been brilliant for me to see lots of like gut instincts and like feelings that you kind of thought you had, but just seeing the data, either to reinforce it or to break other thoughts, nights that you thought might have been, like, I know the biggest one for me was sleeping longer. You just automatically assume sleeping in and having like a 10-hour night is going to make you feel better. But that is so not the case. And see, I was grateful to see some of the numbers to prove it on that end. So, yeah, everybody that's was grabbing those links, feel free to message me or Justin. He should be tagged here in the LinkedIn description. I see that's where a lot of you are hanging out today. Always a wild card where everyone's coming in from, but we should have those links set up there. You can get the Whoop band for free, and then I think there's a 6-month credit or discount or something that comes with it that I set up. That's what I've been using for this entire adventure. Still feel like I'm scraping the surface of what we can get into. But that's a big win. And then the Master in 6 minutes that you were mentioning, Thomas, is essentially a quick little power course on how to actually make sense of all these and how to utilize them properly. So that should be a good starting point to kind of get caught up to speed and join the rest of the episodes here with us. And yeah, even share your own data in the adventure. But yeah, unless anybody has any questions that snuck in, I'm doing the quick little scroll. I think we are good to wrap it up. So thank you, Bonnie, Maria, Thomas, all you brilliant people, Jackie over on Twitch. Everybody else that joined us today, appreciate having you here for the journey. What's next? What's next on deck, and our sort of final calls to action or homework that we've got in store, Justin?
Yeah, big thing we want to do now is really dive into that consistency. Try to go through this process that I just had, where find out what that morning time wants to be. Count back that 3, 4, 5 cycles, whatever it is that you can get in a given night. Figure out what time that nighttime needs to be, what that sleep time needs to be, and then utilize your 3-2-1 rule from there so that you can make sure that that's something that's actually happening and get consistent with that. Do it for 1 week. 1 week, today through next week when we do our session again, and see the difference, see the change, see the impact that actually happens and the way in which you feel on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect. No, we've there's a method to this madness. No, I can feel and see the differences. It's a little bit of a pendulum game we've kind of mentioned of keeping everything in balance, but these 8 pillars that Justin's really focused his equation on. I think the next one we're jumping into is in environment and stress. So I'll have some homework and some intel for you guys next week on some improvements in that category. But one step at a time. It's all moving the needle ever so slightly towards a better life, more efficient use of time, efficient use of energy, and just another sincere thank you to Justin for sharing his insights and these super loaded. I'm glad these are all recorded and captured because there's just some depth to really unpack in these conversations. So appreciate you, Justin, and everybody else. Yeah, your homework, sleep consistency.
Find that time, wake up time, bedtime. 3-2-1 rule, away you go.
Boom. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you joining another episode of Build a Beast.